Thank you for inviting me, and thank you for hosting this event. And I thank Credit Suisse. I thank Credit Suisse for so much. I started my career on Wall Street 25 years ago at Credit Suisse. And you know what I learned over the years? I was there for 9 years before I joined UBS. And for the last 14 years, until founding Cornerstone, I ran global sector research for UBS. Something about Swiss banks and Jewish lesbians, I don't know. Anyway, so we're going to have some fun, hopefully, in the next few minutes. But I learned so much at Credit Suisse. I learned how to learn at Credit Suisse. And Robert is right. In the hallway, off the trading floor, the largest trading floor of a private firm, I think in the world, I learned how to learn. And what that means is I think it's pretty profound. And I think it gives a lesson to the executives and the leaders across the capital markets of the world going forward. The next iteration of capitalism is about purpose. It is about understanding that there need be no dichotomy between long-term corporate profitability and affecting societal need. There need not be a dichotomy. We can do both. Cornerstone Capital was founded just about 8 or 9 months ago to prove the proposition that we can use capitalism for its best and highest purpose, and that means to facilitate global prosperity. And notwithstanding the kicks to capitalism, the damage that has been done by many pieces of the capital markets, we can reorient capitalism, again, towards its best and highest purpose. So what I love is learning. And what I love to do is facilitate the learning in others. And in particular, for 25 years, and in the past couple of decades, managing hundreds of analysts, chairing thousands of investment review committees where everybody wants to tell me everything that they know about everything. What I've learned is that anyone who says they know all the answers, they know everything about everything, is either lying or stupid, and have them removed from your office, okay? So what I love to know is what analysts and portfolio managers and investment officers don't know. Tell me what you don't know, but then tell me how you're going to find out, and earn the right to make an investment call, because there are so many people that cover the stocks, the shares of all these companies in the world, 60,000 listed companies just in the emerging world, just in the developed world, just in the OECD. So many people giving so many opinions. Let them earn the right. What are the incremental avenues of inquiry down which they went to earn the right to tell you what to buy and sell? In stocks, in sectors, in regions, earn the right. And you earn the right by doing great research, great investment research. For the next iteration of capitalism implies the systematic analysis of environmental, social, and governance factors. And I would argue that any analyst that is not systematically analyzing ESG factors should be dismissed, all right, because they're not doing their job. If you think about what pivotal, structural, fundamental things fall under E, S, and G, it's kind of everything. All right, so when we go down these new avenues of inquiry to earn the right to make an investment call, think consciously about what are the driving factors by sector, what is most material by industry, by company, as it relates to the economic outcomes. Let's go talk about, I think, what we were going to talk about before I got distracted by Robert's party reference. Let's talk about the global macroeconomic imperatives for sustainable finance, or sustainable capitalism, or sustainable banking. Hopefully that will just be called finance, capitalism, and banking in the relatively near term, all right? But think about what's going on. If you believe, as I do, that investments in infrastructure, investments in education, investments in healthcare, investments in dealing with climate volatility and change are economic inputs, if you believe that I do, as I do, that they will drive long-term economic growth and prosperity, then you have to systematically look at all your investments, and you have to look at what's going on in the pieces of the capital markets. We actually do sit at a really unprecedented time. 25 years in the business at big investment banks, I did not leave to start my own investment firm lightly, all right? But when I say I learned to learn, look around. All right, look around at the different pieces of the capital markets. Look at what's going on with the asset owners, the asset managers, the investment banks, the accountants, the consultants, the exchanges, the NGOs, the academics, the regulatory environment. Look around at what's going on. And what you will see is that the world's corporations are leading. The private sector is leading in terms of driving corporate sustainability, in terms of driving the global economy. Corporate sustainability, by the way, let's also think about language. The language of sustainability can be problematic. It can be divisive. It can be value judgmental. It shouldn't be about ideology. It shouldn't be about values. Rather, it should be about value. Not ideology, rather pragmatism, objectivity, research, analysis. So when we use the language of corporate sustainability, how about instead we talk about corporate excellence? A definition that my firm is using for corporate excellence. And by the way, I'm not going to spend a lot of time making sure everybody's using the same definition. I will tell you Cornerstone Capital's definition. Corporate excellence is the relentless pursuit of material progress towards a more regenerative and inclusive economy. All right? So we look for companies that are truly pursuing excellence in what they do. And we have loads of examples. And we have companies that are raising the bar. And they're competitive by nature. So they continue to strive to find innovation and productivity, to engage human capital, to respect natural capital, to optimally deploy financial capital. We can do all of this at the same time. So back to learning. Here's what I've observed over 25 years in all those pieces of the capital markets. I've observed some unprecedented things structurally. We are starting to see a convergence of the functions inside corporations, all right? Whether it's the finance function, the governance function, the risk management function, the IR function, all right, the strategic function, all the different functions are starting to converge. You're seeing an interdisciplinary movement of talent and thought leadership. That's really good. That convergence is unprecedented. You're seeing the same thing in the asset management area. And by the way, there are people in this room that have forgotten more than I will ever know about sustainability. And for 30 years, thank you for the work that you have done, because we're all new at this, and you have been the entrepreneurs of the new capitalism. Thank you for that. And what I've learned is there is a convergence of the skills and the excellence, the discipline, the language, and again, unprecedented times. You know what's unprecedented? The extent to which we have a concentration of economic power in the private sector that is unparalleled. We've never seen this before. If you look at Bob Eccles at Harvard would tell you that about 8% of all the revenues in the entire developed world come from 1,000 companies. Just 1,000 companies. The same 1,000 companies represents about 7.8% of all the jobs in the OECD. That kind of economic concentration is unprecedented. Big data, the ability to turn noise, massive amounts of noise, into insight, that's unprecedented. Technological advances, huge. Social media, the fact that corporations might as well be more transparent because we are all going to find out everything about everything pretty much at the same time, right? So transparency driven by social media, unprecedented. Also, it's unprecedented that we sit at the time, we've talked about this in a lot of different forums, we are in the midst of the most massive intergenerational transfer of wealth the world has ever known. And clearly Credit Suisse gets that, and so does UBS, and so does JP Morgan, and so does Morgan Stanley. It's happening. A generation of billionaires and millionaires who absolutely believe, as I do, that I do not want to make a trade-off between competitive financial returns and doing some societal good. All right? This generation of investors will provide an unparalleled amount of grassroots demand for good capitalism. Capitalism that serves its best and highest purposes, notwithstanding the externalities about which we need to be conscious. So all the things I mentioned are unprecedented. You know what else is unprecedented? That alignment of the pieces and the fact that we are starting to have some standards for disclosure. all right? So organizations like GRI, the Global Reporting Initiative, the IIRC, the International Integrated Reporting Council, both of which I work with, and in the US, the SASB, the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board. Full disclosure, I am a founding board member, and we in SASB are particularly excited to have Michael Bloomberg join as our new chairman of the board. So with the work of organizations that are setting some standards for disclosure, the language is starting to converge. We will have the ability to benchmark and look for progress and put those numbers in place, because we need those numbers in analytics. We will not take leaps of faith. And by the way, capitalism has not earned the right lately to have investors take leaps of faith. So the idea of assuming good intentions on the side of corporate executives is not there right now. It's a leap of faith I am willing to take. If 25 years of dealing with analysts and executives and portfolio managers and chief investment officers, I will take the leap of faith that most do have good intentions. And now we have to help them articulate those intentions, and then we have to see how it aligns. So let's look at corporate sustainability. Let's look at corporate excellence. Let's look for consistency in incentive structures, breaking down silos, getting rid of hubris. Let's look at executives that do want to run companies that can change the world for good. And so we do sit at an unprecedented time. We have an unprecedented opportunity. And at Cornerstone, it is our mission to seize that opportunity. So what we do is offer investment banking and investment management services. But one of the things that Robert said in the start, he urged us to open our networks, open our minds, open our hearts, and think about purpose. Because, you know, I do travel around the world a lot. But what gives me energy is that I do believe in capitalism. And I'll tell you what, being in this building in particular, being at Credit Suisse 25 years after I started in the business, and knowing how much I learned being here, it makes me feel great. And you know, yesterday, some of you may have followed the work of Maya Angelou, the great American poet. She passed away yesterday. And one of the things that she said, one of her quotes, Maya Angelou said, "People won't remember what you said, and people won't remember what you did, but people will remember how you made them feel." And so as I pursue a vision of capitalism with my partners at Cornerstone and my partners all around the world, and we touch all the pieces of the capital markets, I can tell you that I feel optimistic, all right? Notwithstanding what's been going on, whether it's about corporate governance or corporate development, cross-border stuff, a pullback in globalization, which shouldn't happen because it is so powerful for good if we do it right, if we open our minds and our hearts. I am optimistic. I feel great. And it's inspiration from people like Maya Angelou, or Socrates, who talks about questioning as the starting point of wisdom, or Aristotle, who talks about the fact that the perfect is the enemy of the good. I think about that. And then, of course, I think about the great business strategists like Sun Tzu, the best business strategist ever. In The Art of War, Sun Tzu said that strategy without tactics is the slowest path to victory. Tactics without strategy is the noise before defeat. So I would argue that great corporations, great investors will find a way to express a vision that captures both strategy and tactics, and we can get to the business of capitalism. So I thank you. I think we might have a few minutes. Robert, you tell me. Anybody who wants to talk about anything, please feel free. And I think you probably know well enough. I will talk about whatever it is that you'd like to. So please, I think we have a few minutes. Yeah, yeah, sure.
My question is, my biggest admiration is, well, for your talk was really inspiring, but Unilever is one of my, the companies of excellence. And they started a few years ago reporting every 6 months. And I thought that was fantastic because to make changes, you need time. why is it that not more companies are following their initiative?
That is a great question. I will tell you that Paul Pullman is an absolute hero of mine. And you know the trick, one of the tricks, aside from, you know, the transparency, the disclosure, the fact that it, you know, it is in their guts, that they've aligned their mission, their business, they've been able to articulate where they're growing based on the products that they have. You know, they understand that if 5 million children are dying every year because they don't wash their hands, educating those children, who will be future consumers, is a good thing. Face it, your revenues in the long term are going to be affected if all your customers are dead, right? And so Unilever gets that. And then look at Ben & Jerry's, okay? Justin Solheim. This man understands. Ben & Jerry's has a flavor graveyard. They understand that you have to celebrate failure to drive creativity and innovation and productivity and growth. And they're out there talking about that all the time. I will tell you that we have a monthly research product at Cornerstone. It's called the Journal of Sustainable Finance and Banking. I am so proud to have Unilever as a contributor. In fact, the edition that comes out tonight. You know, they will talk about what I refer to as open source excellence. What do the great companies do that other companies can replicate, large and small, right? So the coolest thing I think about Paul and what he's done is he has made it clear. And you know what? We're starting to see this in other companies too, even Apple, right? He has made it clear, don't buy my stock if you are expecting me to manage for the quarter every quarter, now, short term, all right? Buy my stock if you share our vision and values, right? And so communicating, articulating your intentions, I think is hugely important. And I have to admit, 25 years of listening to stock pitches and analysts, and I always said, you know, one day, if it was my company, if I were the CEO and I were the shareholder, I would put together a board of directors that shares this vision, that communicates, don't buy our stock if you are going to buy it for the short term. We have a long-term vision, a mission, and we are going to align shareholder profits with purpose, right? So I think the most brilliant thing is the messaging around what Paul and Unilever are doing, and I have wild respect for that. Is that helpful? Cool. Okay. Anything else? Questioning is the start of wisdom. I'm actually surprised there's no other questions. All right?
Another question.
Bring it on.
You mentioned Ben & Jerry. They're
Yeah.
one of the first who registered or certified as B Corp certification.
Mm-hmm.
And can you tell us more about B certification? And they just reached to 1,000 companies.
Mm-hmm.
And given their mission and their objective, I thought more companies would be certified. And why is that?
Honestly, I mean, I'm not the expert in it. I mean, I've looked at it and I've started thinking about it. I am, you know, I'm very traditional, very mainstream Wall Street. And so Cornerstone is a Delaware C Corp. So I am out to, you know, maximize shareholder profitability in the long term. And so from the standpoint of the structure, by the way, Morrison and Foster is my corporate counsel, who is very involved in B Corp and the formation of different corporate structures. But when you're like me and you kind of, you know, old-fashioned and of a certain age, I'm just going to use the mainstream vehicles of the capital markets. But again, I had enormous respect for creativity and innovation in terms of corporate structure. To push the mission forward and help articulate it. But we can happily get you in touch with real experts on B Corp and certification. Okay.
Just to add or interject a note of skepticism here, surely you are talking, and we all subscribe here to, if you like, this is a first world problem. Would you subscribe to the idea or the suggestion that once the Indians and the Chinese even reach half our standard of living, and they are on a trajectory towards that anything we do, as you're suggesting, is just a drop in the ocean because the strain on the world's resources will be such that, you know, we can forget about, you know, trying to improve the Unilevers of the world or any other Western company?
First of all, the first part of your question suggesting that I think this is a first world problem, I absolutely don't. So everything I do is global.
No,
all
it's
right.
a first world issue that we're discussing because
I don't think it's a first world
in the third
issue.
world, I mean, they're more interested in improving their miserable standard of living.
I actually don't agree. You know, I think that there are some of the most enlightened business people and investors in the world are in, Brazil and Africa and China. When you think about what's going on in Brazil, they recently hosted the first ESG Analytics Conference that was hosted by APIMEC, their security analyst society on the floor of the Bovespa. They are desperately trying to understand how to bring themselves, the lungs of the world, and the creativity and innovation and energy and entrepreneurial spirit that sits in Brazil. They are desperately trying to align profitability and purpose, right? And you go to China, with all due respect, I really despise China bashing in America. If you go to China and you see and you know the people, yes, they happen to have an awful lot of coal there, and yes, the population in the US is a rounding error for China. That said, when it comes to investing in technologies, whether it's wind or solar, whether it's planting a forest the size of France every year, hand it to China, they are trying, And then when you think about Africa, South Africa, deeply beautiful, and the principles of investing that came from looking at South Africa and what they do there, I think they are leading the way. So for the developed world, whether it's Copenhagen, wonderful, the most sustainable city in the world, and thank God for Novo Nordisk and Maersk and doing what they're doing, yes, they are leading the way, but so is the emerging world. So the idea of this being a developed world issue, I just simply would reject that. And I'm not sure if I'm getting to your question, but in terms of the technologies that are available now to address some of these problems, water filtration, look at Lockheed Martin. They have technology that can filter water to 1/1000th of a millimeter, right? We have technologies. So from my standpoint, this is the whole world of capitalism, the whole world of investing, the whole world of corporate innovation. So I'm not sure if that got to your question, but do you want to try again?
I still think that's a hard sell to the people in the Indian village. I accept that the educated elite in Brazil, places like that, would subscribe to what you were mentioning, but it's the people down in the villages, and they're the bulk of the population, where I think the issue lies simply because of the numbers.
So the last time I was in Dharamshala, which is at the foothills of the Himalayas where my sister lives, near where the Dalai Lama lives, and I saw women paving roads with the rollers and the tar machines and the baby on their back. The last time I saw that. The last time I heard about turning rural Indian illiterate grandmothers into solar engineers, which is being done at Barefoot University. The last time I heard about those, it really, and I saw that, it really reminded me that I still believe that to elevate the life, all right, to use capitalism, it's still the best system the world has ever known to create prosperity for everyone. So, when you try to talk about economic inclusion and flip the pyramid, this goes to the very issue of companies' self-interest in expanding their consumer population. We do have the technologies to utilize resources so much more efficiently than we are. And so again, I might as well be optimistic, and I haven't found something that works better to flip the pyramid, the economic pyramid, and bring prosperity to everyone than capitalism. I still haven't. And so if I'm going to walk around kind of bummed out and give up and be a nihilist, well, I shouldn't have had the 3 little girls that I did, right? That's the best I can tell you. But the skepticism and cynicism, bring it on, because we do have at some point to decide with investments, with everybody else, when are we going to agree to disagree? It happens. But the cool part, we can still go out for a drink and have a dialogue and help each other learn. Yeah? Okay. I think we have to wrap up. So it is genuinely my pleasure and my privilege to be here, and I wish you great success.